You grew up in a dictatorship. You weren't allowed to use your voice. It deeply impacted your sense of self, your sense of self-esteem, your ability to use your voice. You had to go through cancer, and other things that really shook you to your core to kind of hit a bottom to be able to see what had happened to you in your life and come to terms with the fact that, by the way, people, when you are living in trauma, when you are living in toxic environments, it can make you sick. Grace and I are both examples of living in a certain kind of dysfunction and trauma that ultimately made us very, very sick. Grace had cancer. I had spinal disease. We are both in recovery from that today. So let's talk about overcoming adversity. At what point did you look at yourself and say, whoa, I need help?
All the time.
You're like 5 minutes ago, yesterday, the day before. When do I not?
Yes, exactly. Spot on. Yeah. I think the first time was when I was in that narcissistic abusive relationship. I think that's when I realized I need to work on this. Um, when I was younger, I did a little bit of therapy. I've never done a lot of therapy because I'm a thinker and I'm always like trying to figure stuff out, and seeing like patterns and signs and all that, which helps a lot. But I always felt that there was something that I needed to overcome. Like I always felt it. And instead of looking inside me and be like, oh, this is what happened, which I didn't even know what happened. The therapist didn't even know what happened because I never told them that my mom beat me. Um, Once you look at yourself and you're like, okay, there's something that's off. And what is it? Um, a lot of times you're not going to be able to pinpoint what it is, and until something happens, and that's when it comes out. I still have moments where stuff comes out. I'm triggered by something, and then this is a good method that I use. Like if I'm triggered by something, I'm like, okay, is this my ego? Is this trauma? Or what is it? Or is this just I'm having an off day? So always figure out, like, when you're triggered, what is it? Why am I triggered? I think that helps a lot. Don't wait until you're sick.
Right.
It's
So
not fun.
no, and one of the reasons I got into the business I'm in and why we do what we do is because the first thing I would tell anybody in any situation, learn about it, read
Yes.
about it,
Yes.
go and do those checklists. Am I codependent? Am I living with a narcissist? Is my family dysfunctional?
Yep.
Because it wasn't until I had a therapist that started handing me books that were about the family unit, that were about addiction, that were about all these issues that I had. And I was, suddenly I'm not going, what's wrong with me? I'm going, wait, I just checked every box
Yeah.
on the dysfunctional. Okay, well, that's where I learned this.
Yeah.
So, as one starts to overcome adversity, the first thing is to understand,
I
learn
think
what
so.
you've
Yeah.
been through, learn what
Yeah.
your adversity means.
I think the thing is, like, what is it that I need to look into? Like, for example, I didn't know what to look into because I never spotted or thought about that I had been collectively abused and narcissistically abused by my mom, who had a mental illness. And so in a way it wasn't her fault, but it kind of was because she chose to do it. She was very unhealed. So it's like, what was it? For me, it was so complex. And so at the time I didn't have the resources we have now, where you can Google stuff or you can talk to your chat GPT personality that you chose. Um,
Can I
you know,
interrupt you? You said
yeah,
the most important thing, and I know there are people who are listening or who are going to hear this that are
yeah,
going to have the question. And what you said is really, really true. And we're going to talk about this more in coming months. Sometimes family members don't have the right information to help, or don't have the right, they don't have the capacity. So,
yes.
I grew up in the 1900s sometime. And, I love my family. We are very, very close today, but we were a dysfunctional family growing up. And at the time, none of us had the information or the tools or the skills to be able to understand what was going on, but also change course. So here's a toughie for you. And I don't know if there's a clear answer, but as a coach, I think you should answer, how can you express your challenges so a family member might be able to help? And maybe the challenged family member can't help, but maybe looking back on all of this, do you think there were things that you could have done? Or if somebody came to you now and said, hey, I'm in a really difficult situation with a family member, is there any advice you would have for that?
Oh, absolutely. But if you're saying, if, for example, like I would have reached out to a family member about
Yeah,
like
yeah.
what's going on, well, they were all screwed up. So that takes care of that.
So that's a good point though. Sometimes there is no one in the family to
No,
help.
no.
So I think maybe the answer is if there is some sanity in the family, maybe a professional can come in and work with
Yes.
you. But if there's not, maybe seek help elsewhere.
Well, the thing is, a professional, like I've been to therapy, like I said, like I go like once or twice and then I'm done. It's what you tell them. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I never told them, "Oh, my mom beat me up and, she told me to shut up and I grew up in a military dictator." I never told them that. I don't
Right.
know why. It's like, duh, Grace, but I never ever told them that. So how can they figure out what I need to work on if I'm not telling them? Sometimes this is what happens. We hide everything so deep in us that we shove it. This is what I tend to do. Okay. Not everybody does this, but I'm like, keep going, keep going. So something happens, I deal with it quickly and then shove it down. Right. And
Yeah.
so what happens is you keep shoving stuff down, then it's like up to here and it's like, it's going to explode, right? It's going to go somewhere in your body because it doesn't fit anymore. And you know what I mean? So now
Sure.
I've been working one step at a time because we're not going to heal completely until we go into another dimension after we die. I think that maybe we're still healing there. I don't know. We don't know. I have no idea.